kind of looks like Scott a little bit
He's
here.
back.
Like, yeah,
Hey,
right.
guys, we're gonna hop into the intro.
Cool.
We'll be right
He kicked
back.
out.
With
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reels and Heels. Oh yeah, throwing up the too sweet.
Hey, yo.
Today is going to be a special episode. Nicole will be joining us in a minute. She just got home from work, so she's having her lunch. But today we're going to pay tribute to one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, Scott Hall, who just passed away on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We got the news that, he had fallen and I guess he needed hip surgery. So he went in for the hip surgery. So everybody was like, we hope, that goes well and he heals. And then the news came out just about a week later. He had 3 heart attacks from a blood clot and it was put on life support. So everybody was still saying, we hope he pulls through. But I mean, once you're put on life support, it's pretty much the end. And the family had the decision to pull the plug. And I guess after the plug was pulled, he was still living technically for a few hours, but then he finally had passed. Raw did a great tribute. But let me get into our guest here. We have Jack Connor, lead singer of Vertebreaker. How you doing, Jack?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
And then Jose from the Ravens Flock. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me around here, Brian.
Yeah. And then one of our newest guests here, Shane. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. And again, like I was telling you earlier, man, thanks for having me on. I really want to be a part of this tribute, so this is awesome.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with you, Shane. I know you're a huge Hall fan.
Yeah.
What is your earliest memory of Scott Hall, like seeing him in the ring, a promo?
My earliest memories of Scott was, like I said, I know, Brian, you and I were talking earlier, you were born in 80. I was born in 84. My family grew up on professional wrestling. That's why I'm a huge wrestling fan today. AWA, man, I remember my dad, because at the time, I didn't, like you and I were saying, I couldn't watch that stuff live, you know what I mean? But I remember my dad, he had the VCR and he would tape a lot of stuff. My dad was a huge wrestling fan. The Diamond Stud is when I first saw Scott. Huge DDP fan. You and I were talking earlier, DDP helped save his life, towards the end. But that was the earliest memories of Scott. Was as a Diamond Stud with DDP, man. And then I remember watching my little brother and I used to take my dad's old wrestling tapes and we would watch, like we were saying earlier, with the porn star mustache when he was doing the Starship Coyote stuff. So that would be my earliest memories. Promo wise, man, I gotta go the Razor stuff, man. I mean, that's when I really started focusing on who the guy was. You know what I mean? The WWF at the time brought him in so well. They did so many great things with the Scarface gimmick. He had the gold chains, and I remember him making that promo saying, the promo that stood out to me the most, to answer your question, was I believe it was on a Raw when he said, I have my precious gold around my neck and my most precious gold around my waist. And that was the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah. And I love that WWE doesn't do it as much today, but Razor Scott actually came up with that gimmick. And this was only a month after he left WCW that he shows up in WWF. He had pitched the idea of Scarface, but it was 2 characters from Scarface that he combined.
Okay.
And that's how he came up with the Razor.
It was both Tony and Manny is what he based it off of.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I do remember. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I remember Sting's character in WCW. This would have been the NWO days. I remember Sting's character was dying out, and I think the story went. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think the story went. Hall and Nash and Sting were in a hotel room together. They were hanging out or something, eating food or something. And Sting was trying to reinvent his character, didn't really know where he wanted to go. And Scott Hall looked over and said, "Hey, have you ever seen the movie The Crow?" And he hadn't. And Scott Hall showed him the movie, and he was like, "You should do that. You should hang out in the rafters. You shouldn't talk. You should just be silent. Promos can be whatever you want them to be. You know, you can be the best talker in the world, like CM Punk or Paul Heyman. But it's hard to, Sting went a whole year without speaking a word. He just pointed that bat at what he wanted. And we got to pay tribute to Scott Hall for that, because if they wouldn't have hung out in that hotel room and Sting wouldn't have asked Hall's opinion, then maybe the Crow Sting wouldn't have happened."
Amazing.
Yeah,
and Sting is one of my all-time favorite guys, and I feel like that might be the greatest wrestling reinvention ever, in my opinion.
For sure. See, I was a huge Sting fan. I love the colorful stuff, but man, when he went to the Crow Sting and had the vulture on the arm and everything, just fantastic. But again, we got to pay tribute to Scott for that, man. I mean, Sting wouldn't have had that without Scott, because what would have happened that night if the Outsiders wouldn't have been hanging out with Sting, and Sting would have come up with that with Scott Hall's help? Like, what would have happened?
Well, I mean, it was great, for a couple reasons. For one thing, the NWO was so huge. You needed a cool baby face. You needed a cool adversary for that. Like, they were so big, and unfortunately, that was one of the criticisms of the NWO. They kind of buried WCW as far as what it was at that point. Like, they were immediately looked at as the cool guys. They got over with the crowd, and like WCW was seen as like old hat immediately. But you needed guys like Sting and DDP to be like the opponents to that. Like, you had to have
anti-heroes in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
Sting,
Sting was like Batman. Like, he was that cool.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
It's not surprising to say that, guys like Scott Hall, they do have a grasp on like what gets over in the wrestling business during that time. And it was in the late 90s. They were still competing with the WWF in the ratings war, and they were trying to come up with really cool and edgy ideas to get over. And like you said, Scott Hall making that contribution of Sting going with the Crow angle, that was really awesome. That just shows you like the level of intelligence that Scott Hall has.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if you
correct me if I'm wrong.
Worked in the ring, he was very much like how Randy Orton is. Very like, he always had his eye on the next move. And if I remember correctly, Scott Hall, I don't think actually injured anybody in the ring.
No, not
that I know of.
He was great in the ring.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, he was great in the ring, and he definitely knows how to like sell the moves. And
for sure. I mean, just the toothpick throw, like his swagger. Like, me being a former musician, I was, I've told my buddies and stuff. Scott was that guy that he just had a lot of, he had the machismo, man. He had that swagger to him. I still to this day at work, I'll do it. At home, I'll do it. I'll just strut through the house with that Scott Hall Chicago strut, But the way that he would swagger and just flip that toothpick and then do the ooh, like. That's awesome, man. I mean, that was Scott telling his story at that time to his opponent. Like, I'm not gonna back down to you. I'm not afraid of you. Like, and I loved how Scott just worked the ring. He worked the crowd. I mean, the survey. I mean, come on, guys. The survey.
Oh man! Anytime he comes out to the ring and does the survey with the WCW fans, everyone loves you.
NWO is what they shouted. You know what I mean? I mean, they started booing WCW when he mentioned WCW, and then NWO, and he just got to a point, he just put the mic up and the crowd took over.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Scott's idea to bring Hogan into the NWO?
Well, I remember Hulk Hogan mentioning in a tweet that he put out, paying his respects to Scott Hall, that Scott Hall did help Hogan, save his wrestling career, and that led into the career renaissance in 1996.
Oh, yeah, Brian, and to go off you, Jose, what you just said, brother. Brian and I were just talking before we went live. I was talking to Brian about how Hogan, Hulkamania died in WCW at that point. Hulkamania was dead. And I remember Hogan saying that Scott Hall revived his career by bringing him into the NWO, because that made Hogan relevant again. And it gave people who were Hulkamaniacs as kids, it made Hogan cool again. You know, he grew the black beard, you know, he had the black and white, he turned heel. I mean, biggest heel turn in wrestling history. I don't think there will ever be a bigger heel turn in wrestling history.
It was a much needed change for Hulk Hogan's pace, because like to quote a line from Bret Hart in his documentary Wrestling with Shadows, you can only save the damsel in distress from the railroad tracks so many times before the people get bored of it.
Exactly. And I think his storybook ending came to an end in WCW with Hulkamania, and then Scott Hall came in. But then again, like Brian and I were saying earlier too, again before we went live, you know, originally they wanted Sting, because Sting was the baby face of WCW. They wanted Sting to be the leader of NWO, but Sting didn't want to turn heel at that time. So they went to Hogan day of Bash at the Beach and was like, hey, do you want to join the New World Order? And he said, yeah, it makes sense. We're from Titan Towers. Let's do this. And then when Hogan told the fans to stick it and the trash was thrown, that was it. NWO was born. But Scott Hall did that, though. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, and they thought it was an actual war. Like,
it felt real. Did it not feel real as kids watching that? They felt like a damn game.
Kind of working together.
And like, to me and my little brother, NWO felt like a gang. It felt real. I mean, they were beating people up with ball bats and spray painting people, and they just didn't give a damn what they did. I mean, they said what they wanted. And then when they brought Bischoff in and you had, you know, the boss on your side, like, you could get away with anything. Like, they had their own pay-per-view.
Yeah. Imagine being so good on national TV and pro wrestling to blur the line between fiction and reality.
And that's how good they were.
I mean, NWO was so huge that like every piece of merchandise they had was WCW NWO. Every toy line, every video game they had at the time, and I wasn't even really watching wrestling much during that time. But like I remember as a kid being like, "Oh wow, look how huge this is!"
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I think that's. I mean, they talk about the rock and wrestling era, you know, of the 80s and early 90s when, you know, there was Hulk Hogan, Warrior, Macho Man, Randy Savage, and, you know, they started bringing in big celebrities and stuff. But I think the Monday Night Wars, starting with the NWO, that's what put wrestling on the map in a bigger pop culture.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. I agree.
I would totally agree with that as well.
But let's go back to the very first episode of Raw. The very first segment.
Razor Ramon.
Just a month ago, he was the Diamond Stud in WCW. He didn't re-sign his contract. He signs with WWF. In the very first episode of Raw, he comes out as Razor Ramon in the first segment, being interviewed by Vince McMahon, which people still thought was just a commentator.
Yeah, I think the guy owns the company.
I think there were still like several vignettes that were airing before he showed up. So I remember
they were showing the vignettes on the other, like, Saturday Night Main Event and whenever they had the other wrestling shows.
I remember that.
Yeah. But he was the first segment on Monday Night Raw. In what was it, 93?
93. 93.
I think it was 93 or 94.
Yeah, 93, going into 94, maybe somewhere around in there.
I remember him having a memorable one-on-one match with the 1-2-3 Kid.
Yeah,
the Lightning Kid, man. And then he said that whole thing with he gave him the, hey, you wrestle me again, you'll get this. If you beat me, you get this money. And, you know, 1-2-3 Kid was born. But again, that's Scott, who put over another piece of talent. You know, this guy came in as the Lightning Kid. Nobody knew who he was. He was a jobber, you know, taking on Razor Ramon. And then he beats Razor. And then what was it, like the next week? Hey, I challenge you again. If you beat me, I'll give you a bag of money. And he beat him again. And he took the money and he ran. And
that was, I mean, that match that he had with the Kid, who wasn't even the 1-2-3 Kid at the time. He was just that kid.
Yeah.
But like that, I remember watching that as a little kid and thinking that was the coolest thing ever.
Didn't he beat him with like a moonsault?
Yeah.
Like a moonsault roll up or something? Yeah.
That was out of nowhere. And just that stuff never happened. You never saw like the enhancement guys. Like, I didn't even know what a jobber was back then, but like,
right, exactly.
I always knew that there was the guys who you knew that they were going to lose, but this guy who was smaller and came out and there was a cool factor there. And obviously the fact that they were as close as they were all these years later makes it even cooler in retrospect, looking back at it.
Well,
And I
back
think it's-
then, I was gonna say on I think it was on ESPN. They were showing was it UWF? I think it was. It was a smaller another Fed, and that's where Sean Waltman was wrestling as the Lightning Kid.
Right.
Also, the Patriot Del Wilkes was in that promotion as well. So like when he showed up on Raw, I was like, hey, I knew I seen him somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah. And
yeah, the Razor and 1-2-3 Kid thing, that was one of my favorite things that stuck out to me when I was little when that happened. So it's just, that's one of those things I'll always associate with those two guys.
Yeah. And then like you were saying, Jack, and Jose, you know, those guys are such close friends, you know, Sean Waltman and Hall, you know, they went from, you know, the Lightning Kid or the 1-2-3 Kid with the Razor gimmick. And then they went to the NWO/Wolfpack. You know, because the Wolfpack was an off branch, well, obviously with Hall, Nash, and Six inside the black and white NWO. And then I remember them doing their TNA run. And I remember Hall coming out. First time I saw Hall in TNA, he came out doing the Elvis impersonation stuff.
The Kings of Wrestling.
Yeah. It was kind of weird at first.
It was weird, right? But then he really got into it. And then I remember them forming the band. Do you guys remember the band in TNA?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, their retread of the New World Order.
They used to come out
with kind of like similar logo or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, I also to prepare for this episode, I actually had to watch a couple of pay-per-views from WCW where I saw Scott Hall as the Diamond Stud, comparing him to Razor Ramon. Completely the opposite, total contrast.
Yeah, the Diamond Stud was more like a ladies' man, you know, kind of like Rick Rude.
Yeah.
It was where he first started to look like Razor, though, did he not?
He did, like down to the hair and all that.
Character. Yeah. I
think
he
was like kind of the intro to Razor. I mean, I wasn't watching WCW back then, but I heard about the Diamond Stud, and that's where he changed his look. He kind of got the look originally, but you know, maybe that bled into the character. I don't know, but
yeah, because like when he was doing the Starship Coyote, you know, he had the mustache, and then like you said, Jack, you know, at that time he started forming. I agree 100%. I feel like he started going into that iconic look that he would keep for the rest of his life. Like,
yeah.
He looked like a completely different person than the footage of him when he was younger, when he was Big Scott Hall or whatever.
Well, didn't he have like, if I remember right, I'm old, but I not old, but I'm older. But didn't he have like a perm, right, as the Diamond Stud, or not the Diamond Stud, but with the Starship Coyote with the mustache? What is there more of like a perm-ish kind of style? Like it was more poofy, like, you know, amateur hitting and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Can I just say how hilarious and awesome it is that someone from Maryland can pull off the whole like Razor Ramon gimmick, and like people actually thought he could have been, you know, Cuban.
Yeah,
I mean, he had the tan.
The look.
A guy that's from like the Baltimore area.
As a kid,
when I first saw him, I thought it was Cuban.
Same.
I had no idea
he was Cuban look. I mean, he had the flashy clothing. I mean, it worked for him, you know. And I don't think the Razor Ramon character could have been given to anybody else, and anybody else could have played that as well as Scott Hall did. I mean, Scott Hall, he went all in on that. But then again, that was Scott though. He went all in on what he did. Like, and the fact that the guy put talent over, you know, like we were saying earlier, going back to the kid, you know, he put him over. That was his buddy. Hey, I'm gonna help my buddy out, you know. But it wasn't just the clique that he helped put over. He helped put over a lot of people, you know. He, like we said, he changed Sting's, you know, gimmick. He helped Hogan reinvent himself. The feud between one of my all-time favorite feuds, and I was actually just watching this match. I was talking to my wife, Emmy, the other night. We were watching it. I believe it was at Halloween Havoc. It was a few nights ago. Is when the Outsiders had split, and Scott was doing the black and white blood drips, and he was the lone wolf because he wasn't NWO black and white. He wasn't Wolfpack red and black. And I remember Nash actually lost that match by count out because it wasn't about winning the match for Nash. Because, I mean, Hall was drunk as all get out during that match. And Nash gave him, I think, 3 power bombs, if I remember right, from the other night. And then he just got out of the ring and walked out, you know. And it wasn't about winning. He just wanted to help his friend. And he just, you know, Nash went on record and said, I hope when I power bombed him, I hope I knocked some damn sense into him because I put some force behind it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
as things went on, as he got a little more out of control, you would hear stories about him being a jerk backstage, and Chris Jericho, he wasn't very nice to Chris Jericho in the WCW days, for example.
The Lions were Chris Jericho days.
But since then, Jericho said that they had patched it up and they became friends later on. But I mean, you would hear stories like that, and I get it. It's a cutthroat business. Guys would act certain ways to protect their spots. So I mean, I can see it, but it sounds like there were more positive than there were negative, from what I understand.
He also had a bit of a dispute with Roddy Piper backstage during WCW in '97 because Roddy didn't want to do the job and put over any of the members of the New World. Well, not any of the members of the New World Order, but specifically with Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, Piper never ever wanted a job to Hogan for whatever reason.
Yeah,
it was just a thing.
Piper. And there's a lot of people in the industry that have made it clear that they didn't like Hogan.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Shocker.
Right, yeah. I mean, well, let's not forget about the whole Jeff Jarrett scenario.
Oh
man.
At the beach, I mean, hey, win the title, go about your business. I mean, that was Hogan, I guess.
But getting
back to Hogan and Russo, but that was a whole other thing.
Yeah,
but getting back to the early works of the 90s, obviously no one can forget the 2 ladder matches that Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels had at WrestleMania 10 and in SummerSlam 95.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And I remember too when they did the first ladder match at WrestleMania 10. I know a lot of people will talk about the Hardys and the TLCs and all that and studying the triangle ladder matches, stuff like that. But to me personally, as a huge HBK fan growing up, and a huge Scott Hall fan growing up, that ladder match changed the game. I mean, everybody has went on record and said that revolutionized the ladder match. And
for sure, we don't get those other.
Shawn got his foot hooked in the rope, and if you go back and clearly watch that, they knew the finish, but Shawn couldn't get his foot in the rope properly to hook himself up, so he had to purposely put himself in the rope. So I just thought it was cool, man, because at that time, the Clique was running WWF/WWE at the time, and they were putting each other over, and I got to respect that. I think it was you, Jack, that said it was a cutthroat business, and you step up or you get stepped on, and I just think the Clique, got part of that. They were like, hey, we're going to put our buddies over, and that's what we're going to do.
That I believe was the first ladder match in WWF history.
The first televised. Yeah, Brett and Shawn did the very first ever, but it was like a house event, and then years later they released the footage of it. Brett won it. It was actually for the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Shawn and Razor actually did the first televised.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly without that,
the double titles were awesome.
Without that match, obviously, we don't get TLC and all that other stuff.
Or the triangle ladder matches with the Dudleys and the Hardys and Edge and Christian. Yeah, see, and again, it just goes back to, Scott wasn't just a character, man. Scott was the business. I mean, he put people over. He helped people reinvent themselves. He's changed the landscape of the game going forward into what we watch today. We watch ladder matches in AEW. We watch ladder matches in TNA, we watch ladder matches in Major League Wrestling or whatever, but Scott was that first guy to televise that with Shawn and, kind of put a ladder in a wrestling match. I mean, I didn't know what the hell a ladder match was until I saw Shawn and Razor, how are these two guys going to wrestle if there's a ladder involved? How do you do that? And then they did it. And
I wasn't as old. I wasn't as young when I became a fan, but I watched a lot of old footage with ex-boyfriend and things like that. So we watched WrestleMania 10, and he's coming out and he walked under the ladder.
Yes.
And I was like, dude,
Scott hauled under it. Yeah.
Death wish.
Yeah.
And then maybe 4 or 5 years later, when I started watching the Hardys, really, my God, it must have been 4 or 5 years later, and the Hardys came out and Jeff walked under the ladder. I was like, I know who he's paying homage to. So it's these guys don't forget who started it all. They know they do little things to tip their hat at them.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. I mean, also when Matt and Jeff were young, they would occasionally do jobs on Raw, and there's footage of Razor Ramon working with like a 16-year-old Jeff Hardy, and he loved working with Jeff. So
Yeah,
obviously he was huge for their career.
And talk about paying tribute. If you watch Dynamite, Dr. Britt Baker was wearing
BMD.
Yeah.
The Lone Wolf gear, man. The black and white Lone Wolf gear. Yeah.
That was really cool. Yeah, no, I covered that on my program, and it was really awesome. I like that they showed that she paid homage to Scott Hall.
And she's done it a couple times too, because I like how when she dropped the title on Dynamite this last week in the cage match with Thunder Rosa, you know, she did the Lone Wolf Scott Hall, the black and white blood drips, but she's actually got the red and black outsider blood drips too, his vintage, you know, outsider look. But to piggyback off what you said, Nicole, I remember that ladder match very, very specifically. And I remember when Sean came out, you know, he walked towards the ladder and he said, no, I'm not going under it. But Scott came out and he did that Chicago strut under it. And he was like, you know, test me, like, but yeah.
I always kind of laughed because, like, and I always say this too, like, I met Bret Hart and I was not thrilled about meeting him. He just didn't make me happy about it. But when we talk about when we meet people or when we hear about people, like, no matter what bad gets said, when there's somebody that can offer as much good, like, I think a lot of times we forget that people are people too. And a lot of the reasons that Jake the Snake and Scott Hall and a lot of these other guys behaved the way they did, and it was a lot of behaving badly or just kind of coming off as an ass, that was a lot of the alcohol and drugs talking. Like, it wasn't necessarily what they were even trying to perpetuate as far as them being characters. But I found this quote and it kind of stuck with me. So Kevin Nash said Scott Hall is
excuse me one second.
Sorry. Scott Hall is a great wrestler, a better friend, but more than anything, a very caring human being. Scott never passed a homeless person or someone in need without opening his wallet. This is a guy that has the first 2 nickels he ever made. So, I mean, like, we can say whatever we want. Kayfabe, no kayfabe, whatever entity he took on. Like, if that's the incarnation that people really think about, then that's what should be out there, you know.
That's the thing too, because like I was telling Brian earlier, like, I work for a wrestling company called AACW. It's All American Championship Wrestling, and I'm their interviewer and I do commentary. And you know, the thing about that is, like, when you see these guys come out here on the indie scene and, you know, they have a dream and they want to live that dream. You know, I've been to WWF events, I've been to WWE events, whatever you want to call it. I've been to WCW events, I've been to AEW events, I've been to TNA. But the indie scene, man, I mean, that's just a different breed. You know, these guys want it, man. These guys come out here and they put their bodies on the line. I have a buddy named Johnny Crisis who went for a tope, and his kick pad caught the top rope, and he went face down, and he looked like he damn near scorpioned himself. And, you know, instantly kayfabe didn't matter no more because he was wrestling his best friend, their world champion now, Rick Vital. And, you know, he instantly went down, got down next to him. Hey, man, are you good? Are you good? And I remember my wife and I, we jumped out of our seats because we were like, oh, my God, this is going to end badly. But Johnny got up. The fans started cheering him. Johnny was playing the face at the time. Johnny went for the tope again, and he got it, you know, because he told himself, I asked him later, I was like, man, how scary was that? And he was like, man, I hit that ground hard. And I thought, man, this could be the end of my career. But he's like, the crowd is what gave me the energy to get up and do it again. And the fact that he attempted it again, much respect to that, because I don't know about that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's and that's the thing about, professional wrestling. You get in that ring, you're not guaranteed to walk out. Look at Big E, just broke his neck, off a move gone wrong, You're not guaranteed to walk out of that.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. That's why, and to quote from Jim Cornette, and he mentioned this on Dark Side of the Ring, there's nothing fake about someone nearly potentially breaking their neck. Like, yeah, the matches may be scripted and the storylines may be scripted, but there's nothing
planned or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. But there's nothing fake about risking
control when you're in the heat of things. Like,
exactly.
When something's happening, I mean, there is no way that that D'Lo meant to break Droz's neck, and there's no way that the guy that was in the, I don't even know his name, that was in the ring with Big E meant to.
Ridge Holland.
Ridge Holland, yeah.
They just, there's something about that fire and the movement and everything. I mean, we get caught up and
you're in the moment.
You can't control what's happening entirely, at that moment. So there's no blame involved. It's just that, you aren't guaranteed. But I mean, we're not guaranteed if we went out and got in our car tomorrow. It's.
I mean, I know Ridge is a young guy. He's not quite as experienced. From what I heard, he felt terrible about it.
Have you seen Big E? I mean, first of all,
he's not easy to get over either.
Ridge is not a small guy. Ridge is a big guy too. But the way that Big E is shaped, and you saw that Ridge went for the first time and he couldn't do it, and then he put it into it. And as soon as he knew. That's why when Ridge went to the ground, and then but props
to Kofi for finishing the match. You know what I mean? Yeah. Me personally, being in that, I don't know if I could have done that. If that was one of my brothers, one of my best friends, kayfabe, fuck kayfabe. I'm sorry. I mean, props to Kofi for finishing the match. I would have cared more about my friend, but that just goes to show you again what professional wrestling is all about. And Kofi had a job to do.
Yeah, and there's video from a different angle where actually Pete Dunne was the first one to go to.
Pete Dunne was okay.
Yeah, because he was right. Or should I say Butch?
Butch. Yeah.
Oh, God. No, that's for another episode. But no.
Yeah.
He was the first one to go to Big E and check on him.
So it's kind of like break kayfabe, you know what I mean? Because you're obviously out there playing the heel role. Yeah. Guys, I came across this quote really quick. I just want to read it to you guys and get your guys' thoughts on it, man. This quote, or not quote, but poem. This poem has stuck with me for the last since Tuesday evening when I was at work. It said, he formed the clique, which inspired a club. He revolutionized the ladder, that diamond stud. Outsider to Razor, his name is Scott Hall, the original bad guy, machismo and all. Bad times are over. Dreams came true. Scott will live forever because bad guys do. And I swear to God, as I read that, my hairs are like standing up on my arm. Like I read that, and I have read this quote since Tuesday evening every day because I wake up and I just read it because I'm like, man, I don't know. Maybe it's just me personally.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what about this one that he gave in his speech for the Hall of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Oh man,
classic.
That was
goosebumps. Like just hearing you read that, Brian. Like again, my hair is like standing as high as it can, man. Because that, like you and I were saying earlier, that's the Hall of Fame, man. And
right when he got inducted, like that's when he was in DDP Yoga, and DDP was helping him, and he had got clean.
To see how far he came. I mean,
I think I cried. Like, I think I cried during that speech, which I don't cry very often during their speeches.
Well, I think everybody. I think Steve Austin had tears. John Cena had tears.
But I think, like, if you're a fan and you know the story, it's like you kind of embody. I guess he embodied that quote in so many ways. Like, it mattered to people that listened to him give that. Like, it says, like we never really get rid of the personas that make us who we are. Like, I mean, like if you think about what put him on the map, we remember all the stuff he did before that, but really the bad guy is what put him on the map.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, he was the bad guy, man. He was machismo. He was Chico. I mean, that was him. That's what it, and again, Nicole, I agree with you 100%. That's like, I remember watching that Hall of Fame speech too, and I remember just kind of shedding a couple tears because, obviously, his career is over. He's moving down to NXT to help the younger talent and teach them promos and in-ring work and run the ropes and stuff like that. And and that's what I loved about Hall, man. He was professional wrestling. Just because you have a lot of wrestlers who their career is over, and then you see Instagram photos or Facebook photos of them hanging out in their condos in Florida or their house in Las Vegas or whatever, But Scott, he continued in the business. Like, hey, I can't do it anymore, but I can teach these young kids. He just never stopped putting people over in my eyes,
including his son Cody, who
Cody Hall, Bullet Club.
Man,
or his dad's gear.
Jose, you got a story to tell about this.
Yeah, Cody Hall, the son of Scott Hall, who wrestled for New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah, and he was also he was a member of the Bullet Club. I actually saw an old match from last year. It was a ladder match, and Cody Hall, he was dressed up in the same ring gear as Scott Hall.
Yep.
Although it was kind of weird because he was also wrestling barefoot, but he also wrestled, I kid you not, the son of Larry Zbyszko, the living legend. His son's name is Timothy Zbyszko. Larry Zbyszko, for those who don't know, he is another Hall of Famer in the WWE. He also wrestled for WCW and NWA. I think he was also part of a tag team with Arn Anderson, the Enforcer. Yes. And well, they were both called the Enforcers. But back to the point.
Living legend,
and Cody Hall, like, man, I see a lot of the moves that he does in the ring, and like it's just shades of his father, like no joke.
And that match was a throwback because of the feud that Scott Hall back in the day had with Larry Zbyszko.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just one of them little tributes, that Cody was able to give to his dad. You know what I mean? And just show the respect to his dad for what he did and how he paved the way for for Cody to come in, And I think it's really cool because I was talking to Brian earlier, about NWO Bullet Club. Without Scott Hall, there'd be no NWO. Without NWO, there'd be no Bullet Club. Bullet Club runs the wrestling world, in my personal opinion. They're in every promotion pretty much. But for Cody to join Bullet Club, which was basically a different version of NWO, in my opinion.
Full circle.
Full circle, man. I mean, hey, your dad started this and now you're a part of this. And I think that was, if Cody gave his dad an ultimate tribute, it was Bullet Club.
Oh, yeah. As far as factions goes, that are revolutionary and that help influence the world of pro wrestling, like if you want to compare the two, the Bullet Club and the New World Order was the original catalyst.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it felt real, man. But then again, I think that's why Bullet Club uses the quote, "It's real," because NWO felt real, man. They were a gang. I was 15 years old, watching these guys beat people up in a parking lot with ball bats, smashing out limousine windows, and then spray painting their victims because they're like, hey, we're going to tag you. There you are, So, yeah, I just thought it was really cool, man, that Cody was able to join Bullet Club and became, a stable member of that. And to me, that was just, and I do remember Scott. I remember because I'm a huge fan of the Young Bucks. To me, the Young Bucks are the greatest tag team in modern wrestling today, besides Red Dragon. But I remember.
Hold on. You put Red Dragon over FTR?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay,
fight.
I don't have to like people I don't have to like them. Like, I tend not. I like very few heels. Like I really do. I like very few heels. It's so much easier for me to get behind a face. But I really kind of feel like a lot of what the Bullet Club was doing, what was real, was the relationships you made. Because if you were Bullet Club, you're a Bullet Club for life.
Absolutely.
And I think that is kind of what put the entire faction and its many entities over, was the fact that those relationships, you were going to go to bat for your brother.
That's right. I mean, look at people like AJ Styles and Finn Balor, and
you're going to go to bat for your brother, and they were going to, it was all out warfare because you had it out for whoever was coming up against them. And I think that was a huge big deal.
Yeah. So, Shane, who's your favorite incarnation of the Bullet Club? Would it be the Prince, Styles, Omega? I mean,
I gotta go Omega. I liked. I respect the Prince, Finn Balor, Prince Devitt for creating it with Tama and Carl. But I gotta go Omega because I feel like Omega did what. Hogan did. Having Omega become the leader and turn on AJ, which we still never got that match, and I'm still hoping. I hoped when AJ's contract came up, he was going to go to AEW because I really wanted to see Omega and Kenny.
Man.
Omega and Styles. But we didn't get it yet because obviously AJ resigned. But going back to what I was really saying, to piggyback off what Nicole was saying, I loved the fact that Scott Hall, and I quote, he told his son Cody, because the Young Bucks are straight edge, and obviously Hall, he had his demons and stuff like that. but he told Cody, hey, hang out with the Young Bucks, hang out with Kenny Omega, because these guys are straight edge. Don't get into drugs, man. Don't drink like I did. Don't do drugs like I did. Do your wrestling, be good at it, and just live your life, man. Just live a clean life. Don't follow in my footsteps. And I love the fact that Hall, you know, told his son that, man, you know, stay with these guys, man. Stick around with these guys. You know, AJ's a Christian man. And I know we all got our own beliefs and stuff like that. But, you know, he was hanging out with AJ and the Bucks at that time. You know, obviously AJ isn't straight edge because he does drink every now and again. But the Bucks, they don't do alcohol. They don't do drugs. So I just thought it was cool that Hall was able to tell Cody, hey, man, stick with these guys, man. Don't do what I did. Just live your life, you know, be clean. The Young Bucks, Matt, Nick, these guys are going to keep you on the straight and narrow, man. I trust these kids, like, and I respect that because I have a 13-year-old son, and you know, being a former musician, you know, I've done some stuff, and you know, I tell my son every day, look, man, you know, my son wants to start a band. Hey, man, start a band, you know, rock and roll, man, you know, whatever. Just don't do what your pops did. You know what I mean? Like find a good group of guys that's going to keep you on the straight and narrow. I wish I would have had that growing up when I was 17, 18, but I didn't, unfortunately. But right. I love the fact that Hall was able to go to Cody and be like, hey, stick with the Bucks and AJ and those guys and just live your life clean, man. Like hopefully
he's taking his dad's advice.
He's still clean. Yeah. As far as I know, Cody
Hall,
anything like that. Like, great. Yeah, and I think that's great, man. I think that's the best fatherly advice that Hall could have gave Cody. Again, yeah, just stick with the Bucks, man. Like these guys are going to keep you on the straight and narrow. Hang out with Kenny, hang out with the Bucks, and these guys will keep you straight. And I respect the hell out of that for Scott.
He's doing really good as far as his health goes, and I'm glad that he's still wrestling. But if Cody Hall, like, if he made a splash over in the United States and started like being featured on national TV, whichever promotion he signs up with, dude. You know, the audience, they're gonna freaking go behind him 100%.
Oh, absolutely. If he walked out on WWE TV on a Raw or a SmackDown, or hell, even showed up in NXT, that crowd, you're gonna get a Hall chant started, or a Scott Hall chant, or you know, whatever chant that they start, like,
or a Too Sweet chant,
or a Too Sweet whoop whoop. You know, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm
surprised he hasn't come over yet.
Up in WWE though. Would they really keep him as Cody Hall, or they give him some kind of gimmick name? Like, I'm thinking if he went to like Impact or AEW, they would
let him be Cody.
Yeah.
If it was Impact or Major League Wrestling, he would be Cody Hall. And I think he would still come out in his dad's ring gear because he was wearing his dad's trunks. He was wearing his dad's old school Click trunks with Hall on the crotch, Click on the back. He was wearing the blood drip vest, the blood drip knee pads. If he went to NXT or WWE, I think they would try to rebrand him. If he went to AEW or Major League Wrestling or Impact or Lucha Underground or anything like that, I think they would honor the fact that it's Scott Hall because, you know, going back to, you know, Pete Dunne, I love Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne was a monster, but now he's Butch. And I'm like, and, you know, and then you look at Walter, again, another giant monster, but now he's Gunther. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't get behind that. You're Walter. I'm sorry. Like, you're Pete.
No, it's what they do. I'm surprised they haven't signed him. I'm surprised he hasn't been over here yet. I mean, but maybe they offered him. Maybe he didn't want to. I don't know.
He's stuck with New Japan and Dragon Gate.
Still with New Japan?
He's with Dragon Gate right now.
Dragon Gate, okay.
Yeah, that's where, Dragon Gate's like an I guess Dragon Gate would be like NXT of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I guess, if you want to put it in terms, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it'd kind of like that.
I was going to make a minor counter argument about the WWE now. If he did sign and if they did give him a name change, like one can make the argument that the WWE wants to own like their own intellectual property and they don't want to, the wrestlers, they don't want the WWE making money off their real name. So of course they're going to come up with a fake name to slap them on. So
true.
Oh yeah, no, that's what they do. I mean, look, there's an argument to be made that maybe he could like get his own identity away from being his dad, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, who knows what that?
Yeah, take a look at the WWE's track record of.
Well, after his dad's death, I really think Cody's going to really after his dad's death, I really think Cody I think he would push for that Cody Hall. Like I think he would want his real name. I mean, because obviously Scott Hall was his real name, man. Like I think Cody would push for that and be like, look, man, I'm going to honor my pops, and. WWE, I have all the respect in the world for Vince. I do. Vince is a character. The dude is jacked. I mean, when the dude broke his tailbone falling off the cage at St. Valentine's Day Massacre against Austin, when Paul White debuted, Vince broke his tailbone going through that announce table, and he continued the match because they had hyped that match up so much. I think Vince would respect Scott enough to let Cody keep that name.
Yeah. I just want to hop on the whole, like, when Vince got injured. What about in the Royal Rumble when he blew both quads?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah.
I think he told that story on the Pat McAfee show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, I've seen that footage. It's some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
He wouldn't be the first guy that took his father's name and made a name for himself. Like,
not at all.
I mean,
Ted DiBiase Jr.
Yeah,
Cody Rhodes.
And
there's Rhodes. Another famous Cody out there.
Yeah, see, exactly. Yeah, another famous.
There's Cody.
Well, and Randy
Orton.
Orton.
Famous Cody.
Randy Orton.
I can see Vince being like,
boy,
we can't
Bob,
have two second generation Codys, pal.
And a lot of times, like, people say that, Randy is better than his dad.
He's a bigger.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
and Randy Orton is so good. Like, I love RK Bro. I don't want him to break
up. That tag team was awesome. You could tell
Randy want him to break up, man. And I love that Orton's having so. You can tell Orton in his what is he, like 40 now? And he's said, like, well, I'll retire when I'm 50. I think he's having so much fun with Matt Riddle. And he hated Matt Riddle when he first met the guy. Couldn't stand him. Went on record, was like, I hate this guy. And then he's having the time of his life right now with Matt. And I think the RK Bro is just the coolest tag team in WWE right now. They work off each other so well. Like, Matt's that typical stoner guy, and Randy's this straight-laced, my dad's Cowboy Bob Orton. And, man, I just love what Randy's doing right now. He's having fun. And that's what it's about. Pro wrestling's about having fun. Randy knows he's on his way out. Hey, he wants to do a few things that he maybe hasn't done yet. And, have fun with it, man. And I appreciate that. Like,
so I want to bring this up. And then after this, if you guys want to, continue talking about some more wrestling, we can do that. But I do want to say thank you to Scott Hall for everything you've done for this industry.
Rest in peace.
Baby,
We'll miss you a lot. And thank you.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Nicely done.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. And again, seeing that, I remember last Monday, when he passed. Again, I'm a supervisor at a hospital, so I work late nights, and I have to DVR every damn thing.
Yeah. Well, can I say thank you for what you do?
Yeah, essentially.
Oh, well,
yeah, no,
thanks, man. Like,
awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Like, I appreciate it. We work hard, man. We're trying to, the COVID stuff, it's ending, thank God. And, we're just trying to keep the nurses and doctors safe and, make sure everything's, clean and sanitized and all that stuff and whatnot. But, when I first watched Raw, I was so tired that night because, like I said, I was telling you, Brian, I go in at 3 p.m. and there's some nights I don't get out of there until 3 a.m., and I come home and I got to heat my supper up in a microwave, and, I try to catch up on as much basketball and wrestling as I can in a short time frame. And I only made it through a half portion of Raw. And I remember when they showed that little picture that you just brought up, I was so disgruntled because I was like, is this it? Is the only tribute that you give Scott Hall? Is this little photograph? You know what I mean? I was able last night to finish Raw, and I was able to see the Razor Ramon / Scott Hall tribute, and I was very humbled by that. I thought WWE did their part, and because Scott Hall played a very big part in WWF and WWE, and I think he did. I think Vince will miss Scott, and I think the company will miss Scott, and I think that they went on and they did a very good tribute to Scott. It was about a 20-minute tribute, and I'm not going to lie, I shed a couple tears because some of the stuff that they showed, that was stuff I watched as a kid, and it kind of brought me back to an era of being young and, you know, job free and carefree and bill free.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nice, man. You know, so I think it was really cool. And then the fact that Major League Wrestling's paid tribute, TNA/Impact has paid tribute, AEW's paid tribute. It's been a rough week. It has. You know, to go into work at 3 p.m. and I got the news later that night. I remember seeing Kevin Nash's very touching speech. Did you guys see Kevin Nash's Instagram post by chance?
I did, and man,
I cried, man. I did, because I have a good brother too, and I couldn't imagine living a life without that kid, man. I don't know what I would do without him, and my heart went out when I read that, and I followed that all night long. But I want to bring this up really quick. The fact that Scott Hall was taken off life support at like 10:30, 11 a.m., the fact that he fought for damn near 14 hours, dude, props to that, man. I mean,
sustaining 3 heart attacks.
They said he was going to be dead within the hour after they pulled the plug, basically. And that man fought for damn near 14 hours. And I remember getting on my phone every break. Every time I rode the elevator down to the basement of the hospital to get more supplies or whatever, I would check Instagram, check Facebook, check Twitter. I just wanted to see if Nash had released anything, if Sean Waltman had released anything, and hadn't seen anything. And then I saw the tweet from Waltman, where he said he's gone, and that was it. And that, I remember my buddy Tanner and I, we just were in the elevator and it got quiet. We were laughing and joking and, you know, just doing our thing. And then I got on my phone, I saw the tweet, and it just said he's gone. And I was like, well, it's over, man. Bad guy's gone. And the rest of the night was quiet, man, between Tanner and Terry and myself, and, you know, a couple other guys that we work with and a couple other girls that we work with who watch professional wrestling. This one hit different for me. I think the only one that would be bigger than this one would be Sean. Scott and Sean were the two guys that I try to idolize myself out as music, doing music and stuff. And I just remember seeing that tweet from Waltman, and it got quiet. You know, it was just weird. And I remember my buddy Tanner actually put on his TNA theme. And man, I bet we played that damn thing probably 40 times. I mean, we just kept Scott Hall through every suite that we cleaned, because it was definitely hard. Scott was a very big part of my life growing up. I mean, like,
nobody's out there.
I remember being at a tag team. I used to do backyard wrestling, and I used to wrestle for a wrestling company. And when I was doing the backyard stuff, my buddy Stephen Bull, he was a little taller than I am. I'm 6'2.5". My buddy Stephen was like 7 foot, and he was Big Daddy Cool Diesel. You know what I mean? He was Kevin Nash, man. I was Scott Hall, you know. And we had the outsider shirts and stuff. And I remember hitting him up, and my little brother called me, and he's like, "Man, is it true? Is social media true? Is Scott gone?" I was like, "Scott's gone, man. It's over. Bad guy's gone." And I remember my brother called me, and he was just like, "Dude." My brother and we're only 3 years apart. And he was just like, "Man, I remember sitting, you know, in mom and dad's living room watching the ladder match, man, from WrestleMania 10. We remember watching SummerSlam ladder match. We remember watching him versus Goldust when Goldust, Dustin Rhodes put the heart with Razor on the chest, man." It was just hard. It was just a very difficult time, I think, for wrestling fans, man, to come in this week. It's been a very rough week for wrestling fans, I think. Scott Hall was a very big part of this, man.
Well, a lot of it is because we all grew up with him. Like, if you didn't know, like, if you weren't a wrestling fan necessarily, you understood the pop culture relevance of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what made it hit different. And I think that, you know, I was pretty pleased, actually, that WWE did what they did, because they dropped the ball with Brody Lee.
Yes, they did.
And I think with that blowback they got from that, they got a lot of blowback, and I think they stopped and they thought about what they needed to do to really honor the people that have, you know, made their mark. Like even people that didn't really, you know, they were, you know, not on every single, I mean, like, we didn't grow up with. Like,
I'm surprised they actually didn't do the 10 bell salute.
I was about to bring that up. That shocked me. I was expecting everyone on the roster to be out on the Raw stage wearing an NWO or a Scott Hall related t-shirt and maybe do the 10 bell salute. That was the only thing. Because again, when I watched it on Monday, I was so tired. I only watched half of Raw, and then I had to watch it a couple nights ago last night. And when I saw the tribute, I was just like, I was expecting more of a, hey, everybody pile out on the stage and, put on an NWO t-shirt. I thought NXT honestly did a better tribute to Scott Hall than WWE Raw did. The fact that MSK, I think they're going by, I know them as the Rascals, but the fact that they came out in the NWO t-shirts and they did the Hey Yo, Tomas Ciampa, did the Chicago strut, Scott Hall strut down the ramp. Mandy Rose, huge fan of Mandy Rose. She spray painted old girl. That just kind of brings back memories, of what Scott did. And I think, I would definitely go on record and say that NXT paid a better tribute than Raw did. I think Raw gave him a great tribute, but I think NXT really
I mean, Raw, they did a great tribute. But I hear you saying NXT did it better. But there was a lot of like little snippets in
Kevin Owens with the Hey Yo right off the bat.
Yeah, Kevin Owens, Hey Yo.
I remember that.
Yeah, but even on Dynamite, a lot of the wrestlers paid tribute in a way. Like I said, Britt Baker with the outfit, but like the way that's I think Jericho paid tribute.
He actually,
and that was nice. But
also,
like you said, coming into pro wrestling between Friday and Monday, it's been a wreck for us.
Yeah. It has, man. It really has. Because I mean, you got to think, man. Like, you wake up Monday and you're like, "Hey, I got Monday Night Raw. Tuesday, I got NXT. Wednesday, I got AEW Dynamite. Thursday, I got Impact Wrestling. Friday, I got SmackDown." And just to see the different wrestling companies paid and Rampage on Fridays. Yes. Just to see them pay their tributes, man. And I love getting my little brother Chris hit me up the other day, and he said, "Man, every time I get on Facebook, it's like every 10 posts is Scott Hall related." And I'm like, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be. You should scroll through your Facebook page. And my little brother said, "Man, we just need to flood Facebook with Scott Hall because the guy needs to be remembered for what he did for professional wrestling. He wasn't just Razor Ramon. He wasn't just the Diamond Stud or the Starship Coyote. He was professional wrestling. I mean, like I said earlier in this podcast, he put over talent. He put over his friends. He helped his friends. He gave his son the best advice: hang out with these young kids and stay off drugs, man. Stay off alcohol." Scott Hall, he revolutionized the ladder match. It's Scott Hall, man.
And this is why Jake Roberts and DDP came to his aid, because of what he did to the industry. They saw he needed help, and DDP Yoga helped both Roberts and Hall.
We would have lost him a lot sooner had it not been for that.
What, 10 years ago?
Yeah. It was Jake Roberts who basically went to Hall, said, "Dude, you need help.
Hey, DDP is helping me. He can help you too."
Yeah.
And the fact that DDP stepped up and moved him in his house.
How messed up do you have to be when Jake the Snake Roberts is the one telling you, "Hey, you need to calm
down"?
No
kidding. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. Well, then I've read stories too, where that, like, Kevin, Kevin Nash would go to his house and Hall would, see him pulling up and he'd close the blinds, and Nash is sitting there banging on his door and ringing his doorbell, and Hall sitting there in his living room drinking. And, Nash is just trying to help his best friend. And Hall just didn't want it. And it took DDP to be the guy to be like, "Hey, I can help Jake." And then, like you said, Jack, it took Jake to be the guy to be like, "Hey, he helped me. Maybe he can help you." And the fact that Hall agreed to do the treatment, do the yoga, eat right, train, it gave him his life back. We got Scott Hall. We could have lost Scott Hall 10 years ago.
Yeah. And the thing is, WWE paid for that.
Yeah, they did.
I'm just thankful that we got Scott Hall for another 10 years, man. We got him for another decade,
Yeah.
He got to,
speaking of WWE, Brian, something else I wanted to mention, like another wrestler also paid tribute to Scott Hall, Damian Priest, when he laid out Finn Balor with the Razor's Edge.
Yeah. He did the.
Yeah.
He's very Scott Hall inspired.
Yeah, very Scott Hall inspired.
You can see it.
And I can see a very young-ish Scott Hall and Damian Priest. The way the guy carries himself. But I love the fact, like you said, Jose, when he did the whole just Scott Hall's little, like, I'm gonna dust it off kind of thing. It's the little, I think, and piggybacking off what you said, Jose, going back to what you said about Damian, hell, the five of us might have missed you know, maybe a little thing that somebody might have said or done that we haven't seen yet. You know what I mean? Like go back and watch something. Hey, you might see something else that somebody paid a tribute to. You know, you all do it in your own way. You know what I mean? And I just love the fact that the wrestling world and the wrestling community came together and just showed Scott Hall the love that I just hope that guy knows that, you know, obviously he's dead and gone, but I hope that guy knows that, you know, by the wrestling fans, by us, you know, he was truly loved, man. And I appreciate the work that he put in and put his body on the line because, like I said, as a professional wrestler, you walk through that curtain, you're not guaranteed to walk back through that curtain on your own. And I think the fact that Scott Hall was able to have the run that he did and own it and be the characters that he played and play him very well. And Razor was awesome. But when he played just himself in the NWO, that was the best version of Scott Hall.
Yeah. So I know, Jack, you have a performance tonight. Do you want to stick around and talk some more wrestling, or?
Yeah, that would be nice. I do want to check on my kids because they're just that's why I left earlier because there are a million children in my house right now.
Oh, you're good, man.
People in mind.
Well, it just sounds like there's a million children in our house.
Gotcha. I have two, and my wife's friend showed up with her triplet boys. You know, so I have two girls. I'm sure from like my friends, 3 boys, I'm sure I'll be getting calls from them in 10 years. Be like, hey, is Samantha home? You know,
Well, that'll be fun.
And like for me, man, I'm
right
actually
now.
about to do the first ever SWS live. I haven't done my podcast live before. I usually film on Saturdays, release on Mondays. I have my guests and stuff. So tonight, my good brothers, Terry and Tanner, are actually going to sit down here on the set with me, and we're going to give away some free SWS merch and just kind of talk wrestling to everybody and pay a little tribute to Scott Hall ourselves. Jack and Jose and Brian, man, you guys can add me on Facebook, Shane Eugene Timmons. Add me real quick, and you guys can join in too. If you guys get a quick chance, man, you might win a free SWS shirt and some stickers.
Awesome,
and
man. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. I definitely want to check out your stuff.
Right on, man. Yeah, like I said, I'm on YouTube at SWS Shoot with Shane. Like I said, we're gonna do a little Scott Hall tribute tonight, and we're just gonna shoot the shit live with the fans. And I just want to do something special tonight. We've been planning this for a while, and then it kind of turned into like a Scott Hall thing. But it's WrestleMania season, and we just want to have fun with it. So, like Brian and I were saying, you know, Brian, you explained to me your podcast is like family, man, sitting down having stuff.
Oh
Did we
no!
lose Shane?
Pleasure,
man.
though.
I'm sure he'll be back. Oh, Shane, you're back.
Oh,
There we go.
there he is.
There for a
Like I said,
sec.
it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen and madam. It's been a pleasure, man, talking Scott Hall. I know I'm going to have a house full of people. I got to do the SWS live tonight. I got my sister-in-law's birthday party tonight. My wife's up there working hard, making food and cakes and all that stuff. But, man, this has been a blast, man, tributing Scott Hall. And no disrespect here, but this is just how I pay tribute. So I want to do this really quick. I just want to say this. Last call to Scott Hall.
Salud.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
Yes, sir.
Very cool, man. Well, like again, Brian, thanks for having me on. Brian, Nicole, but obviously both of you, thanks for having me. Jose, Shane, it's nice to meet you guys for the first time. This has been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
you guys do, man. Please add me, man, and I'll send you guys any information you guys need or whatever, man.
We'll do.
Yeah, Jack,
We'll do.
go ahead.
Tonight,
Where can people find you?
You can find Jack or me.
Jack.
Jack. Okay, Jack, go.
Sorry. Well, down here you can find me on Instagram at Jack, and Instagram and Twitter at JackXConnor. You can check out my band Vertebreaker, Facebook.com/Vertebreaker Band, also at Vertebreaker FL on Twitter, or just at Vertebreaker on Instagram. And tonight we are actually playing in Orlando. If you're in the Orlando area, come out and see us. We're going on tonight at Orlando Brewing. There's some details on our page about that. It's
I
a free
just put
show.
up your band.
Dude, that's
go.
awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it's a free show tonight. Admission is free for everyone, all ages. We'll be there with a lot of really great bands like Mature Musical Pictures, Detora, and Against Us All. So please head out if you're in the area. I'd love to see you. I'm going to try and check on my family in a minute, try and get some rest before the show. Maybe I'll wear an NWO shirt tonight. I feel like I kind of have to after this this one.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's really been a pleasure, and feel free to check us out. And again, nice meeting you both, Brian, Nicole.
Very
Good
nice
to see
meeting
you
you.
guys again.
Yeah.
And yeah, take it easy. I'll see you later.
You too, brother. Have a good night, man.
Thank you.
Enjoy your show.
Good night,
Sweet,
Jack.
brother.
All right.
There you go, Jack. And Jose, where can the great people find you?
Yeah, no problem. I'll be more than happy to plug. Yes, so you guys can find me on find my channel on youtube.com/the Ravensflock. We also have a Twitch channel too, twitch.tv/the Ravensflock online. All our shows we simulcast on both YouTube and Twitch. And if you guys want to hear me talk wrestling, my show Wrestle Rewind is on every Thursday night at 10 p.m. where I cover weekly editions of WWE, NXT, AEW Dynamite, and Impact on Access TV, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun hijinks on that show, and yeah, I just review some of like the best matches and angles from all three of the shows, and it's pretty fun. And of course, you know, we're also all over social media. The Ravens Flock. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. But if you really want to catch us, you know, we're on YouTube and we're on Twitch. So, and I'll be more than happy to get in the comment section, get in the chat section, and I will share the link to our channel.
Nice.
Right on, man. Brother, Jose, I just added you on Facebook, man. So I look forward to checking out the Ravens Flock, man. I love professional wrestling, so I'll definitely check out your stuff, man.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And hey, Brian, thanks so much for having me on, man. I really do appreciate it. Like, I know I mentioned it privately. Like, I appreciated you having me on my birthday. And, you know, I like coming on to the show like every now and then and talk wrestling with you guys.
Yeah, and it's great. It's like the last time you networked and you gained some friends, and then this time you gained some more friends. I love doing that.
And that's the same, man. That same here. I love doing SWS, and people hit me up who don't know me, and they're like, "Man, I loved your wrestling episode. Like, let me add you." You know what I mean? And a lot of those people become friends for a long time on social media, and we get to share stuff. You know, so. But yeah, man, I got you added, Jose, brother. It's been a pleasure. Too sweet, my brother.
All right, toot sweet, man. And thanks very much for having me on, Brian. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm Jose Casabone of the Ravens Flock, and I am out. Have a good time, guys.
Have a good one, brother. Brian and Nicole, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to Leonard Pigg, my commentary partner of AACW, for hooking me up with this. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys can check me out on YouTube at SWS Shoot Machine. Check me out on Facebook at SWS Shoot Machine. Like I said, we're going live tonight for the first time at 5:05 Eastern Time PM, paying a little tribute to WCW there. But Brian, Nicole, it's been a pleasure. I'm actually going to get upstairs and kind of chill for a minute before I do my podcast tonight. But thank you guys so much, man. Long live Scott Hall, right?
Right. Long live Scott Hall. And we would love to have you back on.
Hey, brother, anytime you want me to come on, man, just shoot me a message, brother. And, hey, anytime you both are in Marion, Indiana, or in Indiana General and you need a place to stay, don't worry about a hotel, man. Our house is everybody's house. So we'll make sure you guys eat good. And like I told you in that message, we love to see people come over and eat good and shoot the shit. And wrestling's always on. And so, yeah, brother, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
All right, man. You have a good one.
All right, brother. You guys have a good night, man.
All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye.
Oh, man. This has been a fun episode.
I was a little distracted by
you're a little distracted
by the closing of whatever. Yeah, I think it's I always pick on you. I'm sorry, but I always pick on him and say that I don't know why I'm on the podcast, because when there's a whole bunch of people on here, it's like nobody really listens to the girl. But it's funny because I think that we all look at wrestling a certain way, and you know, like we're fans of certain people, but overall we're fans of everyone, really. Like, okay, that's a lie. I do dislike certain people, but I think overall, like, we can come together and we can be excited about whatever's happening. So I think that that's the nicest part about it, is like you meet people that, you know, just love wrestling and want to talk about, you know, the influence it had on them, or how it made them feel, or why it was important to them, or whatever. It's like, it's my connection to a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that, you know, were important to my life, and me striking out on my own and being my own person. Like, you know, I listened to my mom say, "Oh, that fake shit." It's like, well, Mom, you know, I'm sorry, but Mick Foley's ear is gone because of barbed wire. Like, you don't fake that shit. Like, you get hurt. But you know, little things like that.
Yeah, and you do love, like, even though sometimes you wonder, why am I on here? you are listening to stories and you're sucking it in
Well,
to whatever
yeah.
people are talking
Well,
about.
and there's always something we can say about it. Like it's like I can understand that. I can see where you're coming from. I you can acknowledge what everybody's saying and how happy they are to be part of it.
Yeah.
Like I think that we all are. Like, I mean, to undermine what Scott Hall gave to the business is a tragedy if you did, you know, but like I learned so much more just sitting on this panel, just listening to people talk about how much they liked him, because I didn't have the same experience. Like I wasn't watching back then.
Right.
You know, like religiously, like I didn't start watching until like 97, you know, but I'd watched older stuff. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I'd never watched any of it, but
And you knew who Hulk Hogan was. Like everybody
knew. Like I don't think you could grow up in the 80s and not know who. I don't think you could grow up in the 80s and not know who Hulk Hogan or Razor Ramon were. Honestly, like it was part of pop culture. It was just the way it was. But I think that the little things that came after that, like when you hear about somebody and they post about it, or they say, and he did this for me, or this is how he was, and this is, you know, why we reach out, and why, you know, like I think that is what truly is the tribute. It's like that's what pulls wrestling fans together when stuff happens. It's like we can't believe that, you know, some of the stuff's that's happened in the last year or even two. Like we've really lost a lot of people that were really important to the business, and you know, and are loved. Like, you know, I think that there's that whole like camaraderie. And so when I say that about the Bullet Club, I really, you know, wrestling is kind of like that. Like I understand there's people backstage that don't really like each other, and I guess that's pretty normal about life in general. But overall, you know, if you're in the business, I think there's always somebody that is willing to, you know, appreciate you. I need you to put that one back up there.
This one?
Yeah. So I think iconically, this is probably where we need to leave the cast today.
Yeah.
Because honestly, hard work pays off, dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. So
yes, now we have to end the show, but it was fun listening to and then Jack, who's gonna end up wearing his NWO shirt tonight as in his live performance.
I think I don't have anything NWO related, but I guess, you know, there's the whole black headband. There we go. That's what I got. I don't know.
But until the next episode, it's time to do what we do.
Ring the bell.